Bleeding purple and gold from the heart of Los Angeles. This is the LakersNation.com podcast with your host, Trevor Lane.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show. As always, powered by CLNS Media and LakersNation.com, your home for everything Lakers. Today's show is brought to you by Vivid Seats, the official ticket sponsor of Lakers Nation. All you gotta do is punch in that promo code LakersNation in all caps and into your app, and you will get 10% off tickets to your next event. Plus, we're also sponsored by Uptime Energy Drinks. Uptime is how energy should feel. You can find them at 7-Eleven, GNC, and Amazon.com. I've been relying on Uptime quite a bit lately. My 2-year-old has not been allowing me to sleep as much as I would like, so Uptime has been getting me through the day. Make sure you guys check it out. Uptime Energy Drinks, how energy should feel. A lot going on in the world of the Los Angeles Lakers. As always, there's always a million things happening. Even though the Lakers aren't playing right now, the NBA playoffs are in full swing. We'll talk a little bit about the playoffs themselves and a whole lot about the Lakers and the draft coming up and their coaching search and everything else that's going on with them. Joining me today is Corey Hansford from Lakers Nation. Been far too long. Corey, how are you doing?
Been great, man. How you been?
Hanging in there, Corey. You know what? It's been tough. I feel like right now the Lakers are just being swallowed by this tidal wave of negativity. It's like every story that comes out of the national media is negative about the Lakers.
Yeah, you know, when you're down, like they say, everyone loves to kick you when you're down, and the Lakers have been giving people a lot of ammo these last couple of years. If the losing on the court wasn't enough, then you get all the, you know, the rumors and everything about what's inside the organization that really most people, 99% of people don't even know. So it's tough, but everyone's going to want to pile on. You know, the Lakers are one of those franchises that is the most loved and the most hated. So this is what happens with it. If it was the Yankees or the Cowboys, it's the exact same thing, and the Lakers are a part of that.
Well, and speaking of the most loved and the most hated, I do want to get into the Lakers and what they're going to be facing when they hit free agency and all that. We'll talk about that in just a bit, but I was watching the playoffs as I've been trying to keep up on things, and the Bucks keep coming up. Everybody's talking about how well the Bucks are playing and all this, but there isn't that negativity out there about the Milwaukee Bucks. I put out there that I think the Milwaukee Bucks right now are the most likable team that's still standing. Do you agree with that, or do you think it's somebody else?
That sounds maybe. I think the team that probably would come closest would probably be Denver.
See, I said you can't go Denver, and maybe that's the bias in me. It's the Laker fan in me because of all the kind of I don't know, it seems like there's some venom between the Nuggets and the Lakers, and Jamal Murray kind of gets under Lakers fans' skin, so I kind of left them out of it.
Right. I think, see, but I think that's exactly what it is, because that's kind of a Lakers specific thing.
Right.
Murray has had those moments, and you know, as Lakers fans, we've seen them. But watching them, just watching them, they're a really fun team. Jokic is fun to watch. They got some highlight guys. Millsap's likable. Murray's really talented. Harris is good. You know, Barton is one of those, you know, really microwave scorers that are really fun to watch. So they have some guys, but I would lean towards Milwaukee, especially at the top, because Giannis is just so fun and so awesome. He's such a likable person, and you know, just at the top level there, it's just really, really fun to watch. And they're like, there's no who's can you really dislike on that team? There's just no person there that's just like, oh, can't stand watching them or hate their attitude or something like that. It doesn't really exist on that team. So I'd have to agree with you.
Yeah, exactly. They don't have that agitator. They don't. And you know, sometimes you need that guy. Sometimes you need that Patrick Beverley guy every once in a while. Like, I would love Patrick Beverley is a pain in the butt to play against, right? But I would love Patrick Beverley if he was on the Lakers. So
I think I'd still hit him.
You still would.
There's a couple people that I'd probably just like, even if he was on my team, I still just might not like him.
Is it the
I feel like
Pat
Beverly is, it's just, sometimes it just feels so unnecessary. I don't know. Like when it's not in like the fun, like when Lance does it, it's like funny. Like it's so ridiculous that it's funny. It's unnecessary, but it doesn't seem like malicious. Beverly seems like he'll go over there and just like, oh, your ankle's hurt? let me run over here and kick it real quick while you're standing there, and just to make sure it's okay. It's like there's stuff like that. It's just, I mean, I do appreciate, how hard he plays, and he doesn't back down from anyone, but there's some kind of line with him. I don't feel like there's a line that he wouldn't cross, and that just bothers me a little bit.
Fair enough. I mean, I will say the Lakers have had guys like that in the past. I mean, like, MWP elbowing James Harden in the head back. I think it was Ron Artest back at that point, but they've had some of those guys. But in any event, the main point was first that the Bucks don't really have that guy. They don't have that guy that's going to get under your skin quite as much as some of these other teams do. I also want to mention that, Corey, we made it about 5 minutes before you threw in a Lance Stevenson reference. So I think that might be a new record.
You know what's coming.
Corey loves Lance Stevenson.
We all know what's coming.
So
come on. Alex Caruso busting out the Lance Stevenson guitar shred is top 5 moment of the season.
Agreed.
And it's because Lance is here doing the guitar shot from the beginning. It doesn't get better.
There's no arguing with that at all. So you've got the Rockets. A lot of people will take issue with James Harden, the way he plays, the way he hunts for fouls. You've got the Warriors, just because they've been on top for so long. They're going to be on the most hated list for a lot of people. The Boston Celtics. Nobody loves the Boston Celtics. Come on,
Can't
right?
Stand them.
Okay,
Can't stand them.
Boston Celtics aren't going to be up on that list. The Raptors, maybe. Maybe the Raptors are up there as one of the more likable teams that's left still standing.
A little bit, but I think no one just cares. No one cares about the Raptors. It's just, yes, the
Raptors have a pretty good fan base.
Yes, as far as their fan base is very, very loyal.
Right.
But at the same time, it's just like, it's just the Raptors. Like, no one really takes them serious enough. Even with, it's like, okay, there's Kawhi, but then you look at it, I can tell you what bothers me about the Raptors, that the same people keep coming up short every year in the playoffs. Kyle Lowry bothers me now because every time the playoffs comes around, he forgets how to play basketball. And I don't understand why he does this all the time. And like, so I like Kawhi, and Siakam's doing his thing, but then it's like, oh, here's these other Raptors, and everyone's falling apart again. Where's Ibaka at? Where's Gasol at? Lowry goes from 20 points a game to 12. It's like, oh, Lowry had a bounce-back game. What'd he do? He had 15 points. It's like, that's not enough. You're supposed to be the second best scorer on the team. That's what bothers me about the Raptors.
Corey, the Raptors literally just beat the 76ers by 36 points.
I understand that. I understand. Now, this game, yes. But in this series,
sure,
it is Kawhi Leonard averaging 40 on like 80% shooting. And then it's like, I think Siakam's around the 18-point mark, something around there. He's been good. And then everyone else has been pretty bad.
Yeah. I mean, I get that. Yes. Everyone else has raptored it, right?
It's completely raptored it. And even the first game, it was hilarious. Like, all right, new Raptors playoff season, and then game 1, Orlando, they lose. And it's like, oh, same Raptors.
Same old Raptors. Same old Raptors. Well, hey, maybe this is the year. I think Lakers fans have to be hoping that it's not because of Kawhi Leonard, and you'd like to see him leave. The one that I think is really weird, and look, maybe Denver falls in this category too, but the Portland Trail Blazers. This is the one. So I threw this out there on Twitter the other day. I said, hey, which team is the most likable? Okay, that's left. And I said it's got to be the Bucks. And a lot of people said it's either the Bucks or the Blazers. And here's the thing. Portland fans, I've got mostly Lakers fans on my Twitter feed. Portland fans do not like the Lakers. They hate the Lakers, and Denver fans hate the Lakers. I don't feel like there's that hatred going back the other direction, though. Lakers fans actually kind of like the Blazers. They like Damian Lillard, even though he kills them whenever they play. It's a weird dynamic where you've got all these fan bases that just can't stand the Lakers, and we're just kind of like, no, all right, they're cool.
Yeah, because we always came out on top.
Yeah,
that's what it was. That's why it's, you can kind of brush off the Kings because we always beat the Kings. Kings hate us more than we hate the Kings.
Right.
We always beat. I love, back with Rasheed Wallace. I can look back on those teams and be like, holy crap, Rasheed Wallace and Stoudemire and Derek Anderson and Scottie Pippen and Sabonis, like those are awesome teams. And then we always beat them. And Damian Lillard is absolutely fun to watch and love him. And TJ McCollum's awesome. And then, you got Seth Curry can do some things sometimes. And Cantor is out here playing with one arm. Like, they're absolutely likable. But of course they don't like us. There's been too many moments of us ripping their hearts out. Even the Kobe, the Kobe shot, the buzzer beat, the double buzzer beat.
The double buzzer beater. That was, in 04?
Win the division. Yeah, the 04 team. It's like it comes at the Rockets' expense. Again, the Blazers' expense. Again, there's too many moments of us putting the Blazers down for them to like us. I absolutely would expect the Blazers fans to hate us.
That huge run in the fourth quarter of what was that? The last game in 2000. Yeah.
Been 3 years in a row.
That was the Kobe to Shaq lob.
Yes, Kobe to Shaq lob in 2001. Then 2000. Then we swept them in 01 when we swept everybody.
Yep.
That was the 01 when we swept the three biggest rivals of the 2000s, the Blazers, the Spurs, and the Kings, and we swept them back to back to back.
And this is why no one wants to see the Lakers get better.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's talk about a little bit of Lakers. And by the way, I don't know who's going to end up winning this year in the NBA playoffs. I think that's a great thing. Right? I mean, the Warriors have got to be the favorite, but it feels like they're a little bit more vulnerable this year. So it's interesting to watch. But while all this is going on, while we're talking about the NBA playoffs, the Lakers are apparently going to make Ty Lue their head coach, but we're just kind of in a holding pattern because they haven't made it official just yet, which, Corey, we were talking a little bit before we came on the air here. You mentioned that this has kind of been their MO. This isn't the first time that this has happened.
Yeah, Byron Scott everyone knew we were just, it was that weird when we interviewed all of these older, it was like Byron Scott and George Karl and all these older retread coaches. And then it's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's going to be Byron Scott. And then month later, we're still just sitting here and the draft passed and still just sitting here waiting. And we know it's Byron Scott, but there's still been nothing said. And it's kind of the same thing. I don't think it's going to go that long. I'm sure they'll have it done before the draft gets going and all that kind of stuff. But it's kind of the same thing. I do believe that they were seriously looking at Monty Williams, and that's what the reports are saying. And I wouldn't have been mad at that hire either. But, I mean, in all honesty, if we're looking at track record, Tyronn Lue has a much better track record than Monty Williams does. So I'm not mad at this outcome either.
Yeah, you know what? I do think that at the end of the day, and I was leaning Monty Williams, but then once I started digging into it more and I started looking at it, I think that part of it is this. I think the dynamic that we see playing out with Ty Lue is in a lot of ways unfair, right? We hear all the time about how if a LeBron James led team does well, LeBron's going to get all the credit. And if it does poorly, then it's the other guys on the team, like Kevin Love. Those guys are going to be blamed for the team not playing well. It's not going to be LeBron. Although I do think LeBron's taken a decent amount of flack this year with the Lakers. I think Ty Lue kind of fell into that same category or that same dynamic where people look at Ty Lue and they look at him as a head coach and they think, okay, he's LeBron's guy. That's why he's getting the job. That's why he had success. And then as soon as the Cavs were struggling a little bit, it was, it's his fault. And then he gets fired. The Cleveland Cavaliers let him go. I think he's a legitimately good coach, but people just discounted it because he had LeBron James.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, like you said, that's the case. Coaches are usually the fall guy and that kind of stuff happens. The best coaches in the league of all time are the best coaches because they usually have the best players, Phil Jackson had Mike and Kobe and Scotty and Shaq, and Red Auerbach had Bill Russell and Cousy and Havlicek, all those guys. That's just how it goes. It comes with the territory. Regardless of how good of a coach you are, you need to have the right players on your roster to win. But the best coaches know how to put those players in the right position. I always use this as an example with the team, the dynasty that we're seeing now in Golden State. They went from a first-round exit to an NBA championship in 1 year. And, before with Mark Jackson as the coach, they were a good team. They were a dangerous team, but they were never considered quite at championship level. And their offense was never up to par. And then Steve Kerr came in and said, I have two of the 5 or 6 best shooters of all time. We're building the offense around them. We're getting these threes going, and boom, number one offense with their already good defense, and they win a championship that first year. He understood how to, with his assistant coaches, putting in a system to take advantage of his players' talents. And that's what good coaches do. You give them good players and they put them in that right position. And Tyronn Lue did that in Cleveland.
Yeah, not only did he do that, but he's also figured out ways to battle injuries. And that's something that, the Lakers know a little bit too much about having to deal with injuries. But you think about all the injuries that Cavs team suffered and seeing, Kevin Love go down and losing all these different players and all of that. And they still managed to perform well. Ty Lue made series out in situations where they probably shouldn't have been there. And part of that, yes, is the brilliance of LeBron James, but part of it is also the schemes that Lue was using. I think he is a legitimate head coach in this league. I think the LeBron thing is overstated. I think that he is, look, that's a benefit to me. If anything, it's not the reason why you hire a guy, but if he already has a solid relationship with your star player, it's a good thing. I just think people get a little bit uneasy about seeing a player have the kind of control that LeBron does, and they ultimately just assume that he's only getting the job because of LeBron. And I don't think that's the case at all.
Yeah, I'm sure it plays a role in it. Like you said, it's a good thing to have a experience and a relationship with the star player. That's what you want. You want a coach who's going to fit and build around your star player, and Lue can do that. But it's that LeBron has such a negative. He's not looked upon fondly right now by Lakers fans as a whole.
And it was always 50-50 with Lakers fans, right? Even when LeBron first signed, there were a lot that were saying, we don't even want LeBron because of the whole LeBron-Kobe thing.
Absolutely. And until he turns it around and gets them back in the playoffs and back in contention, it's going to continue to be that way. So at this moment, anyone associated with LeBron is kind of looked at as a little bit negatively. Here we go again. You see how he did Cleveland and how he left Cleveland. And, he left them, and then they didn't have anything there, and now worst team in the league. And Lakers fans are afraid of that same thing happening. So they're worried about LeBron putting his people in place. And then when this 3 or 4 years is up, he bolts, and then we're back in a worse place than where we began. That's the concern, I think, with Laker fans. Now, if he gives us a championship, I think we'll be all right. But if that doesn't happen, and then, it ends up in some, terrible, awful spot 3 years down the line, it's going to be an issue, and people are not going to be happy. He's going to hear it a lot worse than he ever heard it in Cleveland.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Yeah, Lakers fans, look, one thing, the Lakers fan base is absolutely massive, second to none, and they're also very, very vocal. This is a fan base that has very high expectations, and LeBron's going to have to figure out a way to live up to those, and the organization is going to have to. And quite frankly, they have fallen short recently. But before we dive into the front office stuff and everything, which I do want to get to in just a moment, Ty Lue, I want to talk about the way he handled this whole interview process, because it's brilliant. When I look at the things that he said, and look, we don't know every single detail. I would love to be a fly on the wall in those interviews and listening to what's going on and all of that, but nobody has that kind of access, right? Nobody does. That's not what we know, but we have heard a few really interesting things. And one thing was that Ty Lue has played up his past as a Laker. He's talked about how much it means to him to be a Laker, and he really played up the emotional side of it. And he also mentioned perhaps bringing in Tom Thibodeau, who we heard today that LeBron's camp was really interested in bringing him. Doesn't sound like that's going to happen, but that he brought up that possibility, and that he's also looking at Frank Vogel to be his lead assistant. Another guy who has a ton of credibility, ton of experience around the NBA. And I just look at the interview process, and you think about those two things. And you've got Ty Lue addressing two big things for the Lakers, right? Having that Laker legacy, being that guy that has a past with the Lakers, that means something to Jeannie Buss. And then being willing to bring in a very strong personality, somebody with a lot of experience to be your lead assistant. And that was a big criticism or a big problem that they had with Luke Walton. I feel like Ty Lue has played his hand perfectly in this whole interview process with these little things that we've heard. He has really tailored it to the Lakers. And
that's smart. Like you said, that's just smart. It's like when you go into like an interview in the office and you see a picture on the boss's wall of like him on a fishing boat with a giant fish. And it's like, oh, you like fishing. And you start playing into that, something that's obvious. That's an obvious interest. As, good or bad, the Lakers have always been making it a point of, within the family, It's all about the Lakers family and what it means to be a Laker, and positively and negatively. It's always been about that. So Lue pointing that out and making that an emphasis, he would have been stupid not to if he didn't want this job. You have to play towards that, because anyone who's followed anything knows that's a big, big deal for this Laker organization. And again, bringing in Frank Vogel or Thibodeau, either or, both of them are known in their head coaching days as big-time defensive minds, which is also very important as well. Thibodeau, obviously very, very well known from his time with the Celtics and the Bulls, but that was also a Frank Vogel thing as well when he was the coach of the Pacers, was, defensive, and then really, really locking that and making that an emphasis. And that is, sorry, I just saw angry Nikola Jokic right now. Just threw my brain off.
I'm not watching that one.
I don't think I've ever seen. They are, and then Nikola Jokic almost looked like he was going to punch Myers Leonard. I love it. Threw me off for a second, but like I said, the defensive mind and the defensive focus of Frank Vogel, that's a big thing. The Lakers' defense waned; it was in and out this season, and it's kind of been the case. So, like you said, the criticism of Walton, one of the main criticisms was of his coaching staff, and there's a lot of wildcatting going on on the Lakers staff, and there was some questions towards that. And if he wasn't, the rumor was that he wasn't really willing to change and fix up his coaching staff, and if that was the case, Lue again playing towards what he knows to be the case. It's just smart. It's the way you go about things, and Lue was smart in doing that.
Yeah, I mean, look, even if it doesn't sound like they're going to get Tom Thibodeau, right? But even that being the case, just going in and saying, "Hey, I'd be open to this. This is something that I'm exploring," right? That shows a willingness to not be so controlling. And not saying that Luke Walton was controlling, but a lot of head coaches do want to have that control. And Lue is saying, look, I'm confident in myself as a coach, and I'm willing to listen to somebody else's ideas and bring in somebody who's got this kind of experience. Because really, a lot of head coaches, if you're coming in new on the job and you bring in somebody who's really, really good as your lead assistant, well, the front office then has their next head coach right there, right behind you, nipping at your heels at all times. There are a lot of guys who wouldn't do that, who would just bring in somebody that was going to be your guy and that's it, and not somebody that was ever gonna potentially overtake you or replace you or anything like that. Lue isn't concerned about that. And I think that's a big feather in his cap.
Absolutely, but it also helps you, and it helps the assistants as well. Again, you look at Steve Kerr in Golden State. Steve Kerr's first lead assistant was who? Alvin Gentry.
Yep. And
he was fine giving him this credit. And a year or two later, Gentry's with the Pelicans because, he was fine with, I have no problem. He did this. This man came up with this. And Ron Adams has always gotten a lot of credit there as well. And we've seen it with Mike Brown as well, in addition to Luke, who eventually came over to the Lakers. You get the best minds there, and you get the best minds available who all can help the team win, and Lue being open to that. Like you said, Thibodeau probably isn't going to happen. He's making a lot of money anyway. He really doesn't have to. He doesn't have to do anything. He can just sit home and collect that Minnesota money if he wants to. And, he had a huge, he wasn't just the head coach. He was the president of basketball operations there in Minnesota as well. So for someone that of his stature to go from that to a lead assistant, that might be a pretty big step down he might not be willing to do. And that's within his rights to do so. But someone like a Vogel or someone in that shade, it makes a lot of sense. So good on him being open to that.
Oh my goodness. Corey, as you were saying that, Justin Turner just hit his third home run of the night here for the Dodgers. So Dodger Blue, our sister side, has got to just be going bonkers right now. Justin Turner having himself a night.
I'm sure. Ginger power.
Yes, indeed. Ginger power. So yeah, you know what? I think that Ty Lue is going to be a really good head coach. And you know what? I'll say this again. I'll throw it out there. As of this point, when we're recording right now, he has not been named officially as the Lakers head coach, but the guy had a Lakers birthday cake, for crying out loud. This is going to happen, and it's probably going to happen as soon as I go to publish we're going to hear this, because the last time I had Alan Slewa of ESPN on our last show, and I told Alan on air that, hey, as soon as I publish this thing, that's when something's going to change and something's going to happen. And sure enough, Monty Williams to the Suns happened right after I published that show. So that means that probably when I go to publish this, that's when it's going to become official, Ty Lue to the Lakers. But we know it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when. What do you make of the Chris Haynes report from Yahoo about Kurt Rambis having a significant role, which we already knew, but a significant role in the hiring process? We've been hearing a lot about Kurt Rambis and his wife, Linda Rambis, the Rambi, if you will, about them having this kind of power in the organization. I feel like there's a lot of fans that are pretty uneasy about that.
Well, Linda's always had the ear of Jenny Buss. That's been the case for decades. That's always been Linda's Jenny's best friend. They talk about everything. Anything that's ever happened that Jenny's ever had to make a decision on, Linda Rambis has heard about, probably given her advice on. So that doesn't surprise me in any way, shape, or form. Kurt, I mean, he wasn't a great coach, but that doesn't necessarily mean he can't be a good executive in the front office. To me, my concern with the front office is that seems like that's the entire front office. And
that and Rob, and I think that's pretty much it. That's my issue more than who it is the fact that that's it. Well, I mean, hang on. We've got Joey and Jesse Buss. They've been part of the interview process as well, and I think they're highly respected. Ryan West, we know, is kind of in and out, but other than that, yeah, you're right. Those are the main guys, though, right?
But in general, it's a very, very small amount of people, and it's everyone, like you said. Who do we say? Buss, West, Rambis, all Laker lifers internally in the family.
Yep, and then Pelinka is Kobe's agent, right?
Best friend. So everyone internally, all within the family. And that is my problem with the entirety of everything. At some point, you need to get a voice from outside. It's you see things. It's great to be on the court and you see things happening, but everyone always says when you sit on the bench and you watch from the outside, you get a different view of everything. And the Lakers have yet to go outside of the family and get a view of different ways to do things and how they run. And that's my personal issue with everything and how it is we have this small group of people, just a select few people that we trust, and that's it. And, these franchises are walking around with 40, 50-man front offices. They've got more people in their analytics department than the Lakers have in their entire front office, and they're trying to keep up with them. Yeah. And it's not feasible. At some point you have to evolve. And yes, you can still have that main circle of people, but you can have different departments and different groups really working within these departments that can take the organization to the next level. And it seems like the Lakers have been really, really resistant to that. And that, to me, is more troublesome than anything else.
Well, they want to maintain, I'm talking about the Buss family and Jeannie in particular, they want to maintain power. They want to maintain that control over the organization and not bring in somebody like, say, a Daryl Morey or whoever and just say, here, you're running things, because then they're giving up that control. And I almost feel like they're sacrificing winning in exchange for keeping that control. And I don't think that's the right move to make. I don't think that's the way to go about it. But as I've been saying on this show quite a bit, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're doomed. Everybody is looking at this situation and saying, look, they didn't cast a wide net. They didn't go bring in a replacement for Magic Johnson. They could have called up Daryl Morey or Bob Myers or whoever and said, hey, what's your salary? We'll double it. Come on over to the Lakers and try to steal somebody. They could have done that. Okay. But they didn't. Instead, they just kind of rolled things over, and they're going to stick with Rob Pelinka, and they're going to bring in Rambis and all these people and keep things in-house. And the process is a mistake, I think, but that doesn't mean that they're absolutely going to come up short, say in free agency or in trades this summer. The path to success is still there. You just may not like the way that they were getting there, but I don't think I can just write off this team this summer. I think they still have a lot going for them. Absolutely. You never know what the end result's going to be. But that it's still worrisome as a whole for the franchise in general, in that they just seem stuck in their ways. And that's
more than anything is what concerns, myself and a lot of fans, whether or not we could even get the opportunity to talk to a Bob Myers, to not think that that's a call that you should think about making, or to a Masai Ujiri who's built two separate teams to playoff experience and then, being consistent top team, to not think that that's a call that we should think about making in order to help rebuild a franchise. That's what's worrisome. Sure, it could be, it could still end up making it to the point, but the fact that it like you said, sometimes the process does matter and it worries. And it's that mindset that could continue to just kind of keep holding them back, possibly. Or maybe it works. Or maybe it works and things work out. But then it's like, is it working in spite of yourself as opposed to what it is that you're actually doing?
That's it, exactly. And I think, Corey, here's the problem. This is what Lakers fans get upset with, is that what we see is so very obvious, right? When we've looked at the mistakes they've made over the last year, it's not like they're making mistakes where at the time you're saying, oh, that's a great move, that's really going to pan out for them, and then it doesn't work. Somebody gets hurt or somebody doesn't play well or something happens and things just don't work out the way that you expected them to. Like the Lakers getting
Steve Nash trade.
Yeah, Steve Nash trade, Dwight Howard, right? Those things. Those were good moves, right? For the time, those were fine moves.
Absolutely.
It just didn't work out. But when you look at what they've been doing lately, that hasn't been the case. If you went up, you find a random person in Los Angeles wearing a Lakers jersey last summer and you walk up to him and say, hey, we're going to let Julius Randle walk away and we're going to take the money we could have given to him and we're going to give it to Rajon Rondo. I think most fans would have gone, hey, that's not such a great move. You probably don't want to do that. Or, hey, we're going to let Brook Lopez go sign with the Milwaukee Bucks for just over $3 million, and we're just going to run JaVale McGee as our starting center. I would think most people would have pushed back against that. It's something that even casual fans would pick up on, and yet the Lakers are trying to zig where others are zagging, and they're making these moves that aren't making sense. And so I think that's the frustration. It's not even that they're making good moves that just aren't working out. They're making bad moves where everybody knows they're bad.
Absolutely. I think that was the case for the most part this year. Even though some played well, I don't think Rondo played bad by any stretch of the imagination. I think he definitely had his moments and had some good showings. But like you said, it was the same money you could have got Randall for, and which was a situation in and of itself, the entire Julius Randle saga.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of nuance to that. There's a lot to get into, right, but just in general, that trade-off and the whole. I mean, look,
absolutely,
Lance Stevenson made more than Brook Lopez.
Absolutely, yes, yeah, the Lopez thing. I think everyone saw. Oh, you get LeBron. Oh, Brook Lopez is the perfect person to have next to LeBron, and just let him walk. Like you said, that was something that everyone saw. Excuse me, and hopefully, you'd like to think they would learn from these mistakes and move forward and make some better decisions and better moves this upcoming summer. But we won't know until it happens.
Right, and it's possible. I mean, look, Rob Pelinka, he's not an idiot. He's not. Like, as much as he can be odd to listen to because he speaks in parables and he talks about manna from heaven in relation to KCP and all kinds of just craziness comes out of his mouth sometimes.
So KCP was not manna from heaven is what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. KCP was not manna from heaven.
Just wanted to make sure I'm on the page.
Definitely not this season. But at the same time, like, he's Kobe's guy. Kobe doesn't associate himself with people who aren't good at their jobs. He doesn't have time for that. Kobe is not someone who wants to lose. He tries to associate himself with winners. Rob Pelinka has real skill as an agent, and maybe that'll translate to being a general manager. He has an opportunity to fix things. Okay, so they can still fix this summer, but yeah, I mean the process just hasn't been all that great, and it's going to lead them to a really interesting situation because it feels like everybody's just assuming that they're not going to land anybody, that they're going to make a ton of more mistakes, that there's going to be bad trades being made and all those sorts of things. And I feel like people are kind of just assuming that right now. And that's a disservice, I think, to the guys that they do have in the front office, that they can make things happen and can do some good things.
I definitely think there's a lot of worry for sure. I don't know how much of that comes from concerns about the front office as much as it is just looking at the landscape of the league.
Sure.
And just from everything that we're hearing, we're concerned about not getting people because it seems impossible that Klay Thompson's going to leave Golden State. And based on Durant's words, why would he come to team up with LeBron? And Kawhi doesn't quite fit. And so then that's, I think, as much as anything, that's the reason why people are worried about, are the Lakers going to be able to get someone? Because from everything that we're saying and everything that's been happening, all these top guys don't really seem like they're in a rush to come to the Lakers, regardless of who's in the front office.
True.
And who's going to try to convince them to come over. It just seems unlikely right now. It seems like the best thing, the best possibility might be Kyrie Irving, which is great, and it gives Lakers fans another reason to root against the Celtics. So then Kyrie can go ahead and leave.
As though we don't have enough already.
As if we don't have any more reasons. So but after that, it's kind of slim pickings. Is Jimmy Butler really gonna make that move? Is Kemba Walker the guy that we want? I mean, I love Kemba Walker, but is that a consolation prize, or are people going to really be as excited for that? And then after that, you're talking about one-leg DeMarcus Cousins and Chris Middleton and Tobias Harris, which if that's what we've been waiting these 5 years for, I don't think people are going to be too happy with that. So, like I said, I think the situation as a whole is more so bringing about the concern as opposed to just worry about, can Pelinka pull this off? I think people are just reading the tea leaves that have been popping up all season.
So what do they do? If let's say, I think this is the nuclear scenario, right? Is if the Clippers get 2 and the Knicks get 2 of those max guys. If you have 2 going to just 2, so you have 4 players off the board between just 2 teams that have cap space, I think then you're really going to be up against it trying to land a max level free agent, a true max level free agent. So if that happens, what do you do if you're the Lakers? You've got to spend the money, right?
Then you don't have to do anything. You start looking at the trade market and you go, okay, well, this move happened, these moves happened, these moves happened. The best time to make a trade is in the summer because you can do some maneuvering with certain guys and release cap holds and make money fit a lot easier than you can do during the season. So, okay, if Kyrie and Durant both go to the Knicks and then Kawhi comes to the Clippers and Klay stays and Milwaukee immediately re-signs Middleton. All right, well, what do you do? Hey, Washington, what did it take for Bradley Beal? We just got this dude. We just drafted at number 11 overall. And here's one of our guys, and here's another first-round pick. What do you say? Maybe we'll take back one of those weird contracts that you have. I don't think New Orleans is going to trade Davis to the Lakers. I think they just hate us.
Yeah, it's like the Pacers with Paul George and the Spurs
and
with
Spurs.
I
really
Kawhi.
think they hate us, and the way that all that shook out in the season, I don't think they would do that. But you go to Washington or whoever else it may be. I don't know who might be. Chicago and Zach LaVine or something. I don't know. I'm just throwing random names. I have no clue. But you start looking at different possibilities. Like they always say, there's 3 ways that you can improve your team: draft, trades, and free agency. Mm-hmm. At that point, the draft will be done. If you don't get exactly who you want in free agency, you start making some calls and you see what you can pull out there, because there are going to be teams that are going to be looking to sell and get themselves out of some bad situations. And you start seeing what you can pull from there.
Yeah, agreed. I think that's what they're going to have to do, and hopefully they have a real good plan B in place just in case plan A doesn't work. Of course, landing a star in free agency is plan A and has been for quite a while, but they're going to have a backup plan ready to go. You mentioned that number 11 pick. Draft lottery is about a week away here. And as of this moment, and as it will be the same leading up to the draft, the Lakers have a 9.4% chance of jumping into the top 4 and a 2% chance of getting Zion Williamson, which is the number one pick, right? So most likely they're not moving up. It could happen. If it did, then everything changes. I think that they've got a much more valuable asset on their hands if they can jump into that top four. And if they get number one, oh my gosh, I can't wait to listen to all the complaints around the league if the Lakers got the number one pick and Zion Williamson. But Corey, assuming they stay at 11, what's your take? Because you are much more tuned in to the draft than I am, at least at this stage. I haven't quite dove into all the draft prospects just yet.
It's a very, very tough draft to judge. I think this one, for the most part, the top three is pretty set. Zion's going to go number one, period. Yeah. That's not in question. It does not matter who is picking first. Zion Williamson's going number one. And then pretty much John Moran and RJ Barrett will be 2 and 3. Whichever order. I'd say John Moran is more likely to go number 2, but depending on the team, could be Barrett. But those are 2 and 3, pretty much guaranteed. After that, it is a absolute crapshoot. I mean, you can look at different draft boards, different mock drafts. I mean, I have here in front of me, for instance, ESPN has Kevin Porter ranked as the 14th best prospect in the draft right now. The Ringer has him at number 22.
Jeez.
Like it's that level of range. So you could see someone like a DeAndre Hunter could go as high as number 4. He could drop to 9 or 10. And the same goes for a lot of these guys. And I really think that depending on how the lottery falls, depending on how these workouts go, and for certain people like Bol out of Oregon and Darius Garland out of Vanderbilt, how these injury and these medical reports come out as well is going to be extremely, extremely important in how this shakes out. We could have our eyes on someone and think that this is the guy, and he might be there, but the guy that we had as our third best prospect that we thought would go in the top 5 might drop. It's one of those years where just anything can happen.
So Corey, what I'm getting out of this is that this is not a bad year to have a number 11 pick, because you can very easily get a guy who is maybe could be in the top 5 in terms of talent at number 11, because there's so much parity. There's so many guys that are so close after that top 3, right?
Absolutely. I think there's a little bit of I'd say, probably the next 4 or 5 guys after the top 3 seem to kind of have a little bit of a lot, but there are certainly guys that can rise and fall. But it's all going to be in the eye of the beholder for sure. And I think these workouts and, certain guys always shine in those one-on-one workout settings where you can just go through drills and you just see those raw skills for certain people. And maybe their game tape wasn't as good as you want it to be, but you look at them up close to these workouts and you think, no, we can change that up and that guy can rise. Or, the super athletic big guys who was, just, he's 6'11" and he runs this fast and he's got a 7'9" wingspan and all this. You got to take him. And those kind of things happen during these workouts. So guys you think are going to be there won't be there, and guys you don't think will, end up dropping. So it's always a possibility. But it is definitely a draft where you could see the best. You could end up getting, one of the better players in the middle of the first round, late lottery, middle of the first round. It absolutely could happen.
Now we have heard that this isn't really a draft that's full of stars. I mean, it's Zion and then maybe a couple of other guys that might be in there where they could be really good players. But then other than that, it's seen as a fairly weak draft other than those top guys. So we're not talking about, they're going to get a superstar at 11 or anything. We're just saying compared to who you could get at, say, 5 or 6 or whatever, you could land somebody equal in talent at 11 because there's so many guys that are so tightly bunched right there. You mentioned the workouts. That can be for better or for worse. We've heard about, I remember Russell Westbrook when people thought that he was a reach where he was drafted, right? And some workouts helped sell him. Like you go, holy crap, this guy's ridiculously athletic. But then you also remember guys like Gian Leon and his infamous workout against a chair where he looked phenomenal. And then he, Yeah, then he pretty much was a bust in the NBA. Didn't really make it.
The greatest chair player of all time.
The greatest, yeah.
The greatest chair player of all time.
If the Lakers are ever playing against a team made up of chairs, I am calling him. I'm signing him to a max deal. Bring him in.
Well, it was the same thing with Giannis when Giannis came in, and everyone remembers seeing these grainy videos where he looks like he's playing at some like boys and girls club against 10-year-olds, and you have no clue how to judge this kid. And, it takes some time, but then now he's, going to win the MVP probably this year. And it's an inexact science. You never know how these things are going to turn out. As much work as we put in and as much, as all the experts, you're still getting it wrong the majority of the time. That's what ends up happening. You never know. You can be sure, absolutely sure of so many things. This guy is the safest pick in the draft, and at the very worst case, he's going to be this, and he's out of the league in 3 years. You never know how this stuff is going to turn out.
No, yeah, there's always that possibility. I mean, look, at one point, Greg Oden was a sure thing to be the next superstar in the NBA, and then he barely played because of injury, and that's unfortunate and everything, but that's the way the NBA draft goes. And I'm looking at this, and I think, and I said this last year too, I said this last year with their pick, and they wound up keeping their pick, but it seems to make a ton of sense for the Lakers to heavily shop this pick. I just think in terms of the cap space they're going to have available, if they can get that guaranteed salary off the books, they're going to want to do that. Plus, if they can get something of value for this pick, they might be able to entice free agents if you can make the money work. If you can go use this pick to bring in a player that's going to show that, hey, the Lakers are ready to win now, that could be a selling point when they go into free agency that they could use. So I would fully expect the Lakers to be very active in trade talks regarding this pick.
Absolutely. I think it would be dumb of them not to be open to any possibilities this offseason in anything. Draft time is the time to make these kinds of trades. And if someone believes that there's a player that they can take here, especially a not as great team, they may want 2 lottery picks. Again, I'm going to bring up the Wizards because I really, really want Bradley Beal on the Lakers. And if they just say, we can get another lottery pick here in this draft, and we'll throw in whoever, a Kuzma or Ingram or a Hart or whatever it may be, you have to look at that. You would be foolish not to. And this is the time to make these kinds of trades, because when free agency hits, you can clear out money. That's not a problem. There's always, it's always a release of cap. It's not like the Lakers have a lot of cap money signed up right now. Most of their contracts are rookie contracts.
And I guess that's the catch here. And I've been hearing that name a ton, Bradley Beal, and I like him a lot. I think he would fit a lot of what the Lakers need, but he's also making a decent amount of money. It's 20 million plus, as I recall off the top of my head. And it may be more, maybe 25. I'm gonna have to look it up here, but he's making that much money, and you've got your draft pick that you can add in. You can try to throw in a guy like Kyle Kuzma or whatever, but still the money's not going to match up. So you're going to be eating in to your cap space that you could go chase somebody. Do you make that trade if you're the Lakers at the draft? Do you do, say, the 11 pick and Kuzma for Bradley Beal, knowing that it means that you can't chase max free agents anymore because Bradley Beal's eating up that money?
I don't think you can. I think there's ways around it. I think you would still be able to chase some people. Again, you'd be renouncing a lot of these cap holds. I think you would have. I'm not sure exactly what's the salary cap exactly this year.
It's going to be at 109, as I recall.
Okay, so if you're taking away, you're not going to have a rookie, salary that you're going to eat, and if you get rid of, the right couple of parts. Bill is at 27 million next year and 28.7 the following year. So at 27 million.
So you're not going to match that. I mean, you put in Ingram, Lonzo, and Kuzma, and you're still not matching that.
Yeah, but you don't have to match it. You only have to match when you're at the salary cap. If you have the cap room, you can just eat the money. So even if you're taking out some of, you take out a couple bits of it. But to me, Bradley Beal is as good as anyone except the top 3 free agents: Durant, Kawhi, and probably Kyrie. And I don't think we're getting Durant and Kawhi anyway.
No.
And Kyrie's a possibility. I don't think it's a great possibility. But after those three, I think Bradley Beal's as good as anyone else you're going to get in free agency.
Yeah, I think you can make that argument. I mean, you could say, hey, he's better than Jimmy Butler. Is he better than is he better than anybody else? The other Klay Thompson, who you're not going to get anyway.
Yeah, right. And I mean, Bradley Beal is 25-5-5 this year.
Right.
And is a lockdown defender and is a great 3-point shooter and knows how to play with pace. He played with John Wall for years. He can play off the ball. He can play on the ball. And this is all, again, this is pipe dream. This isn't like, oh, we think that it's a definite move that could happen. And I mean, by all accounts, he's the only positive thing the Wizards have going. They probably don't want to trade him anyway. But I'm just throwing it out there as a possibility because I want Bradley Beal on the Lakers. But this is the kind of person that you want. And sometimes you can't get that person through free agency. Don't limit yourself. Get the sure thing. And you'd get that sure thing for 2 years, not on an expiring, but 2 full years to then have that and then build. And no, you wouldn't have the money to get another max guy, but you'd still have a couple of good young pieces. And then you'd have the money to bring in a couple of good supporting pieces around them. And that's still something that you can build upon and make a real contender with if that were to happen, someone in that range. But again, this is all complete speculation. I don't have sources within the Washington Wizards organization.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like they really want to move Beal, but who knows? Maybe they will. But that's the bottom line, though, is that's the type of move the Lakers could look to make with this pick. Okay, if it's sitting at number 11. Now, if it's sitting at top 4, if they come in and get the 4th pick, then obviously that changes the equation a little bit, changes the math. If they're, maybe they just hang on to it. I've been asking everybody this. If it's number 1, do you just take Zion or do you still shop it?
Depends on who you're getting.
Well, sure. But okay, let's say New Orleans calls up and they say, okay, Anthony Davis for number 1. Are you doing that?
100%.
Okay. Because he's the sure thing, right?
Yes. We'll get Anthony Davis and, we'll give the number 1 pick and maybe a piece. There's the number 1 pick and Josh Hart and, some, other little filler stuff like that. 100%.
I agree.
Without question.
Agreed. I think Zion's going to be great, and he's going to be on a cheap contract for his rookie deal. But yeah, Anthony Davis, you already know, is a top 5 player. So I think you go for it. I think you do it. But anybody else? Anybody other than Anthony Davis? And, assuming that, the Giannis and Harden and all those guys are off the table. Anybody else? I don't know. I think I would probably want to just stick with that pick. Yeah.
I mean, it's like I said, it all depends on who's available. I don't know who these players would be, but when you have a number 1 pick and someone like Zion, who's, just seems to be one of the most sure thing prospects we've had in a long, probably since Anthony Davis. It would have to take a ridiculously high level player to even consider giving that pick up.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Gosh, I hope it happens. I know I'm going to be wearing my lucky Lakers socks, which I do every year on the draft lottery. I am hoping that somehow the basketball gods smile upon the Lakers and they jump up because my goodness, the tears of fans around the league that root for any other team besides the Lakers would just be so sweet given how many people have been piling on the Lakers this year.
All of the rig talk would be absolutely outstanding. And I would absolutely love every minute of it. This is fact.
All right, Corey. I think that's a good positive note to finish with, that the league might be rigged if the Lakers get the number 1 pick, or at least that's going to be the claim of everybody. Let's finish on that high note. Any last thoughts? Anything that you have coming up for Lakers Nation, and why don't you tell everybody where to find you?
Find me on any social media handle at TheCoreyH, TheCoreyH. And like I said, we're getting into the draft stuff soon, so I will definitely be having a lot of profile prospect stuff, a lot of the workout things that will be coming around, and a lot of stuff I'll be kind of point manning a lot of that stuff. So, one of my many titles here at Lakers Nation is the draft. This is my time to shine. So, it's going to be a fun time.
The draft is indeed Corey Hansford time at Lakers Nation. So yeah, exciting stuff, guys. Make sure you are following Corey on Twitter. Corey, we're going to have to have you back on here again. We're going to, especially as we get closer to the draft, we need to do this more often.
Oh, for sure. It's definitely going to happen. Can't wait.
All right, man. So guys, thanks everybody for listening. Keep your fingers crossed. Draft lottery day coming up. We will have another show coming out before that happens. Also, I'm looking to do a few more Facebook live shows. We're going to get those going, especially once the Lakers officially announce their coach. I'll be hopping on and we'll be talking directly to you, taking your comments and questions live. So we'll do that. And then, of course, we are looking forward to the NBA draft. I can't wait for that coming up in June. And then off to Summer League. Going to be an exciting summer, guys. Make sure you keep heading over to LakersNation.com for all the latest going on in the world of the Los Angeles Lakers. Follow us on social media at Lakers Nation Official on Instagram, at Lakers Nation on Twitter and Facebook. And of course, check out the Lakers Nation YouTube page, which is just growing like crazy these days. So make sure you guys go check that out as well. Till next time, guys, my name's Trevor Lane. You can follow me on Twitter at Trevor_Lane. See ya.